And while we're bringing in the Ukrainians and funding them, by the way, the UK is shipping out the Rwandans.
Interesting. Oh, we're
Don't
down
even
with
get me
refugees, but
started.
only certain kind.
Right, the ones that look like us.
Mhm.
Us meaning them, because I don't look like them.
Mm-mm.
But we're not. What about the earthquake in Afghanistan? I don't see any Facebook profile pictures changing to prayers for Afghanistan. What, those people, those lives don't matter? That was an
Mhm.
earthquake. That was a natural disaster. That wasn't even within their power.
Mhm.
War is within our control. Earthquakes aren't. Oh, we
Especially in a
just
country
issued
like that.
right, but we just issued what, another couple $100 million to the Ukraine, and what are we getting in exchange for that? A military base. We're getting them into NATO, control of their military resources and their food products.
Yeah, that's a long shot that Ukraine actually does get to join NATO at this point.
Well, I mean, nobody ever thought in a million years Finland and Sweden would ever consider NATO, and now they are. So here we are. We are in a new world order, and what people don't realize is that this doesn't make Putin a bad guy. Putin is doing exactly what we did during the Cuban Missile Crisis with Kennedy. We did not want the Soviet Union at that time putting a military base 90 miles off our border. Putin is saying, I don't want your American penis in the Ukraine bordering my border.
I think everybody should just chill on all that shit. I'm definitely not going to defend Putin because he's, one, a trillionaire secretly.
I don't defend him. He's no different. Why shouldn't we defend him? He's no different than any other political leader. How's he any different from our leaders?
Well, one, he won't step down. He won't allow anyone to actually run against him. All of his elections.
Isn't that pretty much what Trump tried to do?
We at least go through the dog and pony show of having changes of power here. Nothing really changes substantively, but
because the agenda doesn't change, just the players who perform it.
Yeah, but we at least pretend to have a functioning democracy, whereas he will just kill any major political opponent.
Yeah, but don't you respect that?
No, I think that's fucked up.
I don't. I think it's the most honest thing any of these leaders have done in a while.
Okay, yeah, the nigga's being honest. Like, I'm honest.
Yeah, he's like, fuck all of you. I hate Western ideology, and I want to bring the Soviet Union back to its glory days. And fuck you. Did I mention that? And I'm rich, so I can do it.
Yeah.
And I don't want you near my borders. Do you want me near yours?
Well, compare this to Desert Storm too, because like Iraq invaded Kuwait. Kuwait had a bunch of oil. We went in there and pushed Iraq out of Kuwait. We didn't take over Iraq until much later, right?
Right.
If Ukraine had Kuwait's level of oil, and if it was, an army like Iraq rather than an army like Russia's that was invading them, I feel like we would have just done Desert Storm, just done a quick war to push them out. But Russia is a much more formidable opponent, and Ukraine doesn't have a fuck ton of oil for us. So,
and we don't have a base there yet. So it would be much more difficult for us to ship resources there and defend those parameters when we don't have a resource station.
Well, I don't think we had a base in Kuwait at that time, but we had bases nearby.
But we have bases nearby, and we have a very solid relationship with Saudi Arabia, which has the worst human rights record in the entire world.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing. I think we do have some bases like near-ish Ukraine, and then we can get to the Black Sea and stick, get our aircraft carriers or whatever in there. But we knew we'd be able to wipe the floor with the Iraqi army, and we wanted that Kuwaiti oil. Whereas, it would be harder. Eventually, obviously, we would win a war head-to-head with Russia, but it would cost us a lot more in terms of lives, in terms of money.
Right. And we're doing what we did in World War II. We're not going to send in foot soldiers until it's absolutely necessary. Let's not forget, we didn't jump in right away when the Nazis first started killing people. We waited until closer to the end.
Oh, yeah.
And we're doing a similar thing here because we actually don't want a blatant outright war with Russia right now because we're overextended as a country. So we're giving all this money to the Ukraine, but we have a recession within our own walls. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Let's pump the brakes on pumping money into all these countries that we have interests in. And let's get ourselves back together first, right? Our country, people got $1,200, but we sent the Ukraine like half a billion. That's not making sense. That's not making sense.
I mean, but so the country right now is facing inflation, and part of that inflation comes from all the money that we gave to everybody for COVID, because the money.
And don't think we're not paying back that COVID money. Don't think we're not paying back on that COVID money.
Yeah. Like, if that had just gone to people that were actually out of work and the companies that were, in danger of putting people out of work, that would have been one thing. But because they gave it to everyone, because it was an election year and they kind of wanted to buy votes. You know what I mean? A lot of people, basically, whether they said everybody who made less than 125K. even if you didn't lose your job from COVID, you got that money. So like, obviously like inflation kind of is going to hit you after that. It should have just gone to the people who lost their jobs.
Right. And companies are using the current situation to drive up prices and force inflation. I mean, companies have record profits right now. There is no reason for an inflation other than greed.
Yeah, the price of oil is not that high right now, but the gas companies are keeping the price of gas
high,
really high,
unnecessarily using what is happening as an excuse to do so when they don't really need to.
Do you think they're doing it just to because they want Republicans to win in November?
I think they're doing it because they want money. I don't think they care, because Democrats are complicit. Let's not forget. It's not like the Democrats are like, oh no, we're against oil and war. They're like, where's my money?
If the Democrats expand their majority, they might get rid of some subsidies, or at least not expand some subsidies for oil.
I have no faith in them at all, whatsoever, in any way, shape, or form right now. None. There is no reason to believe that they are able to move the needle on anything right now.
They do not seem to have a backbone.
They do not seem to have a backbone. Their marketing skills are on -0, and they're beating by a less formidable opponent with a dangerous message that is somehow wiping the floors with them.
Yes. They're getting beat up by someone who's smaller than them.
It's like getting dumped by a pity fuck.
It's a much better way of putting it.